Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill, John Mateer, Oklahoma. Like they just keep winning. Now, was this the cleanest football game we've seen from Oklahoma all year? No, absolutely not. John Mateer would tell you that. Ben Arbuckle would tell you that. The biggest thing that we learned about Oklahoma in this one, this team's a whole bunch of winners, man, and that matters. Look, when Oklahoma went out and got John Mateer in the transfer portal, we knew they were getting a good quarterback. That's exactly what we've seen. This is a guy that if the season ended right now, I'm probably picking him to win the Heisman Trophy. But Dill, what he's bringing to this locker room from a culture standpoint, from a swagger standpoint, like it just permeates through that locker room. And when it's time to make plays on either side of the football, it feels like Oklahoma's coming up with those plays. That matters. Like anytime you play defense the way Oklahoma does, and anytime you have a quarterback like John Mateer, you're going to have a chance to win every single football game you play. Are you a winning football team? We see the difference still. Like there was a stark difference between what you saw from Oklahoma and John Mateer and what you saw from Jackson Arnold and Auburn. Auburn's a really, really good football team. That's about as talented. I mean, I'll say this. That might be one of the better defenses you see all year. But when it's time to make plays, who is making the plays to win the game? That was pretty damn obvious to everybody watching. It was John Mateer in Oklahoma. That's probably my biggest takeaway. But I do want to get into some what I think are sneaky storylines that we learned about Oklahoma as well. Before we get into it, as always, to the Oklahoma fans, what we've continued to ask the Oklahoma fans as we've worked through 2025, what are the new expectations? With every single win, it feels like the expectations get a little bit higher. And Dill, I don't blame the Oklahoma fans for thinking that way. I'm looking at it and saying that, especially when you look at the landscape of the SEC and the sport, you're looking at Oklahoma and saying that they can bang with they can beat anybody in the country in 2025. What are the expectations that the Oklahoma fans have for this football team in 2025? Please let it fly in the comments section. Appreciate the Oklahoma fans for all the support. This fan base has been rocking with the boys for a while. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'll give you the T-box. I apologize for the long intro. How are we thinking about this one?
And I think you said it right, because that was really the difference in this game. Because that
Yeah.
was a neck and neck played game. And I don't know, you said it, like Oklahoma, that probably isn't their best football. Auburn, you could very well argue, may have outplayed them at times, but you said it. Like Jackson Arnold, when he needed to make plays, wasn't
Yeah.
quite able to make them. John Mateer, complete opposite. Like that played Isaiah Satania. That's such a good pass and such a huge moment. And again, those were the difference in that football game. Like
Well,
both teams are struggling to score and hit those explosive plays. There were a couple of those plays, though, that John Mateer, yeah, he makes them. Jackson Arnold, and frankly, not just Jackson Arnold, but a lot of quarterbacks across the country aren't making those plays. And that is the fundamental difference in Oklahoma right
well,
now.
let's open this up to more than just quarterbacks, though. Like to me, the feeling that I get from Oklahoma, it's more than just John Mateer making plays. That's where it starts, and that's what's changed, right? Because we weren't saying this about Oklahoma 12 months ago. In fact, we were saying the exact opposite about Oklahoma 12 months ago. John Mateer comes along, and I think Ben Arbuckle probably playing a part in this too. Like there's some young swagger that Ben Arbuckle brings. It permeates, man. Because then you go look at the Oklahoma defense and say, hey, when it's time to pin your ears back, get after the quarterback and go close out this football game. Like, boy, can they. Now, I do want to
Wide
stick out.
receivers too, because the wide receivers make some plays for this team too. And like guys who, again, like Isaiah Satania, I would have never in a million years thought he was that type of player. Like I was like, oh, he's a good player from Arkansas. Not, oh, he's like fine. Like I was like, oh,
I
that's fine.
Dill,
Arkansas.
I didn't think Isaiah Satanga was going to come in and answer Oklahoma's wide receiver questions. It,
No,
it's
it's like
kind
I thought
of
they failed in the portal. I was like, that's not a good enough haul. I knew what they were
yeah.
last year, what they got Deion Burks and a bunch of guys who I'm not wild about. Yeah, you look at the way Keontae Lewis is playing, you look at the way Isaiah Satania, especially
Jaron
even Darren
Kanik.
Kanek, like everybody's kind of stepped up their level. And again, that's where it gets hard to like, is that all kind of stemming from having that quarterback who you
Yes.
just go out and, there
Yeah.
and believe in and can make things happen?
There's zero doubt in my mind. In again, you talk about the important aspects of being a quarterback that fly under the radar. It's not just the flashy throws, man. Can you bring out the best of everybody around you? Dill Isaiah Satang is playing his best football of his career. Jaron Kanik has played tight end for like a cup of coffee, like 2 months, or not 2 months, 8 months. Jaron Kanik looks like one of the better tight ends in the country right now. Here's the last question you want to talk about on offense, and this is the last question Oklahoma needs to answer before I'm completely sold on a national championship caliber team that's running the football. Can Ben Arbuckle figure it out? And is it going to have to look a little bit different? And I shouldn't say can Ben Arbuckle figure it out because he's not calling up good run plays. I'm meaning, can you find creative ways to allow Oklahoma to run the football a little bit better? Because there is that one-dimensionality that's pretty damn clear with this Oklahoma offense. They can't really run the football consistently. And when you can't do that, you're going to see a lot of good defensive fronts that have really dynamic pass rushes. And they're going to game plan, hey, how can we get after the passer? What's the best looks we can get into coverage? When you're making a team really only prepare for one mode of attack, and that's throwing the football, it can be a problem. Am I overreacting to it? Does Oklahoma need to find a run game to go out and win a national championship in 2025?
No, because I do think you need to like be able to punish a team like Auburn, who was going pretty small on their
Yeah.
defensive front. Like they weren't playing their big jumbo defensive tackles. Like they were keeping their smaller pass rushing guys on the field. Keldrick Falk was playing a fair amount inside. I do think Auburn's going to need to find, or not Auburn, but Oklahoma is going to need to find some way to punish that type of team. Because, like, again, John Mateer is going to mask a lot of those issues. He gets the ball out really quickly. He's not taking sacks. He's not taking negative plays, and he's really efficient. But I do think from like being able to force teams to play different personnel groups. Yeah, if they're going to play with like 4 defensive ends, essentially, you need to be able to run the ball on that.
It's not that Oklahoma needs to become that team that runs for 200 yards a game. In fact, you'd be foolish to be that team, right? When you have John Mateer. Yeah, I 100% agree. In terms of keeping a defense honest, I do think it's a little bit important. We'll see if Ben Arbuckle can figure that out, because it's really that one thing, man. Like, can we figure out the run game? And if we can, that team takes this is a college football playoff team. This is a team that can compete for an SEC championship. But when you talk about making a run in November and then making a run in the college football playoffs, having some sort of run game you can lean on, I think is going to be important. If Oklahoma can do that, there are not going to be many teams in the country that can beat this team. All right, though, we did kind of bury the lead, though, because that's Oklahoma defense. I mean, when you got that notification on your phone that Brent Venables was going to be coming to Oklahoma, and you said, all right, we're going to start playing some defense, especially as we go into the SEC. This was the defense you envisioned.
It took a couple of years, but you got it now. Like, you got a defense that plays fast, they play aggressive, they tackle at an elite level. This is a really fun defense to watch.
And it starts with this defensive front, in my opinion. And look, do I get Jackson Arnold was holding the football? I get that. That was the best. David Stone's step that he has taken in 2025 is elite.
And Jaden Jackson. I mean, Jaden Jackson, I know, is further along last year, and David Stone's kind of like really rocketed in.
Yes.
Jaden Jackson, though, is playing at a really high level, like being able to destroy blocks, get in the backfield.
Well, here's the thing with Jaden Jackson is he was always that run presence last year, man. He was really good against the run as a true freshman. Wasn't super dynamic as a pass rusher, I think it's probably fair to say. He's become that guy that can really impact the passer as well, along with Dominic Williams. Grayson Halton, we know, is one of the best pass rushers in the country in the middle of that defensive line. Taylor Ween can play.
He's Mason, like really active, like really plays really hard, pretty disruptive. Like he's not like the pass rusher our Mason Thomas is, but like just a really good on stunts, a big physical defensive end. I do think there's like a way they're using him right now that they're really getting the best out of what he can give them.
And then here's the second part of this Oklahoma defense. You are so athletic and fast at the second level with those backers. You can give so many different looks and you can do so many different things. This is the classic example of Brent Venables is a master chef. I don't think it's unfair to say he's the best defensive play caller we've seen in like the last 2 decades of football. And I hope Kirby Smart ain't listening, but like I think that's true. I think that's fair to say. When you give Brent Venables the ingredients necessary to run his defense, he's a problem. And he has that, right? Because he has that dominant defensive front. But he also has linebackers that, I mean, they can rush the passer, they can drop back, they can run, chase, and tackle, they can do everything you want. When you have that, it's such a problem. And I feel like that's kind of what you saw from Oklahoma on defense. And Dill, in the back end, did you give up some explosives to Cam Coleman? Yeah. Were there some throws that Jackson Arnold maybe could have made that could change that game? Sure. But it's really hard to. I mean, when you're sacking the quarterback, 11 sacks and 14 TFLs, probably going to win that football game more times than not. That's what you saw Oklahoma do in this
And
one.
that is one thing I'm kind of curious to see if they'll ever have to adjust at all because they played pretty much. Again, I know they went to a bit less aggressive in maybe that second half, and even Brent Venables said it like, well, we didn't need to play a heavy box to stop the run and
That's
kind of
another
deal with Auburn's
storyline,
run.
man.
I'm very curious to see if we'll see maybe him take his foot off the pedal maybe a little at times, especially because Cam Coleman's a guy that like he's going to do that to a lot of cornerbacks. I think he might be the best ball in the air kind of wide receiver in college football, maybe aside from Jeremiah Smith, because he's really elite in that department. I do think they started to adjust a little bit maybe in the second half to have a deeper safety and not just kind of give them that opportunity to throw that ball up and see
Yeah.
what Cam Coleman can do. But I look, like you said it, the way they have their personnel structured where there's no weaknesses really, they can play that type of defense. They can play really aggressive and kind of smothering.
Yeah.
They can play less aggressive and I think still kind of control the run and not let
And
themselves
still
get
get
too.
after the passer, man. Like they can still get after the passer. They don't need to send backers to get pressure on the quarterback. I think you're right, by the way. I'll just say this. I don't think you'll see a vertical threat like Cam Coleman the rest of the year, right? You have Ryan Williams on the schedule. Ryan Williams is good. Cam Coleman, I think, is better. I think if Cam Coleman had the, is that fair to say? I'm taking
Well,
Cam Coleman
they're
over.
they're definitely different. Like Cam
Yeah.
Coleman
Okay.
or
Fair.
Ryan Williams
Fair.
doesn't
Fair.
scare me when the ball's in the air like Cam Coleman does. Cam
Yeah.
Coleman's as good as it gets doing that.
Yeah. I think it's the best wide receiver room you might see all year.
That and then their ability to tackle in space in the back end. It's like because that was going to be another thing. Like,
Yep.
yeah, Singleton caught a lot of passes, but his stat sheet doesn't look incredible because I mean, when he caught the ball, they were getting him to the ground pretty effectively. And again, it all goes to like they can just play that really aggressive style when they want to because their back end they tackle at a really high level.
Is this a national championship team?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I don't see at this point, like they've beaten, and now this is making me feel better about our Michigan Wolverines, frankly. We go out beat Nebraska. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
I'll
I
say
think this
this.
team's
You
great.
want to
Like,
talk
really.
about Oklahoma's defense because we weren't really sure, right? When Michigan went on the road to Oklahoma and Oklahoma just snuffed them out, like outside of 175-yard touchdown run, we as Michigan fans, like we couldn't move the football, we're squat. And I was like, all right, is that Oklahoma's defense elite or is that Michigan's offense is still bad? I think we figured that out because we went on the road and ran the football all over Nebraska, and Oklahoma continues just dominating the defense side of the football. I'm with you. Like I'm kind of feeling good about Michigan in terms of what I'm seeing from Oklahoma the last couple of weeks. Special teams making plays there too. That's the cool part about this as well. Is yeah, Oklahoma was not perfect on offense. In fact, I think that's probably going to be one of their worst offensive performances. I think what could be fair to say. Lean on your defense, lean on some special team playmaking. You can win a lot of football games when you have. How about this to close it out? Oklahoma has the ability to win in a lot of different ways, man. Look, if you want to go blow for blow and try to get into a shootout, which I think is hard to do because Oklahoma's defense is so good, but if you need to get into that game a time or two, you got a quarterback that can bail you out, that can go win you those kind of football games. You want to play a little bit more of an uglier rock fight game where no team's really going over 300 yards of total offense. Oklahoma, they just fine in that situation as well. All right, we'll close it out there. Really, really good football team. That just feels a little bit different in 2025. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.